soon as I got it, 10 minutes later. You answer, I go, I just got you. Get the whole story.
No, we were just talking. It's her. We could I want to chat about it. It's okay. For sure.
Where? 6, 7, 8. That's what it's still going. By the way. Oh, saying how. Got pretty bad, I think. Yeah. Okay, let's get started.
Sorry, just
Yeah,
gonna make a quick,
Memphis.
just a quick one. Hi everyone, I'm Renee. I'm your sound tech today. I just have 2 quick announcements before we get started. First one is just make sure that you're speaking clearly into the microphone so that people on the Zoom can hear you. Best way to do that is just make sure it's parallel to the floor. And then secondly, just please leave the microphones on. That's it. All right. If you have any questions, let me know. I'll be here.
Thank you. Jonathan?
Really quick, Lori got birthday treats for the November folks. They're sitting in front of Lorelei, so please help yourself and happy birthday to the November babies.
Yay. Okay, I call this meeting to order at 7:07 p.m. We're gonna start with amendments to the agenda. Does anyone have any amendments? Diego?
Do I have to motion or do I just say what I want to add?
Sorry?
Do I motion or do I say what I want to add?
Is it an action item?
Yes. It's
Then you motion.
Okay. I motion to add letter in support of AFSCME 3299 strike on the November 19th, 2024 agenda.
Any seconds? Go ahead, just go ahead just 1 second.
I second.
Diego motions, Karen seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, that passes. Are there any more amendments? Have you?
Can I start bag allocations and am I able to add a special presentation on the November regions recap?
Any other amendments? Tommy. Microphone.
All right, motion to remove resolution calling to increase funding for UCLA Care Office until state allocations are designated by UC Regents. Table it. Oh, table it.
Jonathan, if it's an action item, but we're tabling it, do we have to vote on that? Can you motion for that?
Oh, yeah. Oh, motion to table resolution calling for increased funding for UCLA Care Office until state allocations are designated by UC Regents.
Any seconds?
You
can just go ahead for a second.
I second.
Tommy motions, Karen seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, that is tabled. Tommy.
One more thing. Motion to add resolution. Resolution. What's the official name? Motion to add resolution calling for a $20 minimum wage and paid sick leave for ASUCLA workers to the agenda.
Second.
Tommy motions, Javi seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11-0 vote, that passes. Are there any other amendments to the agenda? Nico.
Hi all, can I strike USA/BOD allocations, please?
Any final amendments? Karen.
Can I add CS transpo allocations or motion to add?
The consent. So we don't have to motion.
So I add.
But it's not an action item. Any final amendments to the agenda? Oh, sorry, online. Chris Espino.
Yes, may we please scratch academic success referendum fund and travel grant mini fund.
Bethany.
Hi, may we please strike capital contingency allocations, please?
Yes. Are there any final amendments to the agenda? If none, could we get a motion, please? Abby.
I move to approve the agenda for November 19th.
I'll second.
Abby motions, Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, that the agenda is approved. We are now going to move on to approval of the minutes. Do we have any minutes to approve? Could someone motion for that, please? Kiara.
I motion to approve the meeting minutes from the USAC November 12th meeting.
Second.
Kiara motions, Javi seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 vote, the minutes are approved. We are now going to be moving into public comment. And just a reminder for everyone that's here for public comment, we have a total of 30 minutes allocated, and each public commenter gets 2 minutes to speak once. And some of our community guidelines are challenge ideas, not individuals, use gender inclusive and respectful language, freedom of speech does not mean freedom from accountability, and no dehumanizing language. With that being said, do you have anyone with us in person that's here for public comment? Please raise your hand. Green hoodie, please. Yeah. Yes. Approach the microphone, please. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Hi, yeah, I'm Sky. I'm an ASUCLA worker who works downstairs at the computer store as a customer service representative, and I'm here to speak on the $20 minimum wage resolution that's in front of you all today for ASUCLA workers. So let's be honest, why do UCLA students work at ASUCLA jobs? We don't work in unventilated kitchens and at understaffed coffee shops for fun. We don't haul boxes half our weight and set up huge events for fun. We don't bus tables and prepare food at like super, at rush hours for fun. We do it because we have to pay the expensive and ever-growing cost of UCLA tuition. After all, the UC Regents just raised non-resident tuition by nearly 10% at their past meeting. And we have to also pay all the additional costs that living in an expensive neighborhood in an expensive city, forces upon us. And for many students, for many students, working an ASUCLA job is the only way that they can actually pay their way through their education here at UCLA and afford to study here at UCLA. And yet, despite these jobs being the lifeline for many students, we struggle with extremely subpar working conditions. We get very few benefits. As I said, working conditions are often very unsafe. And most glaringly, we have subpar wages. For the majority of us, the starting wage is only $17.30 an hour. And, for unless we're promoted to become student supervisors, even if we're working here for 3-4 years, the majority of us are going to stay at $17.30 for the entire time that we're working for ASUCLA. This wage is $10 less than what the living wage in Los Angeles County is, considering all the costs of living that are associated with living in this county. It's a wage that would be inadequate for any LA County worker of any kind, including our career workers who don't get much more, and obviously they're going to be on strike tomorrow for that reason. But it's even more inadequate for UCLA students who are working these jobs as a way to work through college and actually pay for their education. There's a reason why many ASU workers are working multiple jobs and often spending more time at work than they are in class. $20 an hour in sick pay is not going to be enough. And until student workers have like a strong union that will allow us to collectively bargain for higher wages and better conditions, it's not going to be enough. But it's a step that y'all can take, pressuring the board of directors to raise our wage to $20 an hour. That will put us on the path to having quality jobs on campus. So I urge you to vote yes. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a reminder for public commenters to try and keep it under 2 minutes. With that being said, do we have anyone else that's here in person for public comment?
Hi, my name is Sam. I'm a senior and a worker at ASUCLA. I was hired my freshman year. Throughout my 3 years at ASUCLA, I have had shifts in 4 different workplaces. I've known student workers who have slept in their cars because their commute was too far and because the cost of housing nearby is too high to afford on a $17 an hour salary. I know student workers who have found ways to work over 18-hour shifts and 20 hours over the legal limit per week in order to put themselves through school. I know students who have dropped out altogether to work at ASUCLA full-time until they get enough money they need to re-enroll. My coworkers should be able to prioritize their education. Instead, they skip class to pick up extra work shifts. No sick pay, no protections, no benefits, no free meals. But luckily, student workers once a quarter get 25% off a $60 hoodie at the school store. And this is at an organization with the express mission of serving us, the students. But how do they serve us? There's no room for student organizations in ASUCLA buildings, outrageously high food costs, limited resources. In many workplaces across campus, conditions are terrible. How are you supposed to stay focused in a stats lecture after working a 4-hour shift at a cafe with no AC, with lines out the door? What if you get sick? How will you be able to afford your basic needs? A $20 minimum wage and sick leave won't solve the root of these issues, UC agreed, but it will be a step in the right direction. A USAC resolution is a small drop in the bucket, but it's still a way to let the board of ASUCLA and the UC regents know that we, the workers, run the UC, and we, the students, should have a say in where our dues and where our tuition money go. Money for jobs and education, not for cops on campus and investments in war and genocide. I hope you all on the pickets, see you all on the pickets tomorrow with AFSCME 3299 and at the ASUCLA Board of Directors meeting on December 6th. And just vote yes. Thanks.
Thank you. Do we have any other public commenters that are here in person? Go ahead.
Okay. I'm here to also speak for the $20 minimum wage. I personally just came from like a shift at my job. I think it's insane how much we have to work at our jobs in order to just make a livable wage to sustain ourselves financially. I personally work almost every week over the 20-hour limit. I have worked in the span of 2 weeks, 62 hours just to make enough to sustain myself personally and to get myself through tuition. Working at ASUCLA has basically taken up and consumed my entire life. I don't have really enough time to do anything else except work and go to class. And I can speak for my other employees too at my job. We are quitting because we cannot stand for it anymore. We also just don't have the luxury of not going to work. I don't get a single, penny from overtime. We don't get tips. We don't get sick pay. I go to work and coughing with a mask on just because I can't afford to not go to work. I'm in my last year and I have managed to get to a triple S level at UCLA, but that wasn't easy. For many people at their time here, they're just going to remain being like CSRs, making even less than we do. And I had to sacrifice so much of the 2 years that I had here as a transfer just to get to being a triple S. During my first year, I prioritized going to work over going to class because I couldn't put myself through school and tuition on a CSR paycheck. I couldn't get myself through tuition as a supervisor, and just barely being a triple S has been able to put me through. And for many of us are graduating, we are living paycheck to paycheck. We don't really have the opportunity. A lot of us have second jobs, and a lot of us are making more at our second jobs and leaving us to work, at Jimmy's or at anywhere else on ASUCLA campus. And I think this could be a step in the right direction, knowing that we raise minimum wage, not just for triple S's, for CSRs at the beginning, because we shouldn't have to be doing that much to begin with.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else that's here in person for public comment?
Hi guys, my name is Ella. I'm also a student worker and I wanted to speak in favor of the $20 minimum wage and sick pay resolution. I'm a third year and throughout my time at UCLA, I've had to have two jobs to afford to live in Westwood and attend this school. And actually right now I don't know how I'm gonna afford next quarter. It's just like not doable for me. Um, I've had my job since I was a freshman and I started at 17.30. Now as a supervisor, I make 18.75, but that's still $10 under the living wage for living in LA, let alone Westwood, let alone paying tuition and fees, which actually just got raised by over $3,000 for the incoming class. So I don't know how students from working class backgrounds, from out of state, internationally, from the most marginalized backgrounds are supposed to pursue a higher education when all of their time has to be spent working. Um, yeah, I think as USAC, you guys are the voice of the student body, so I'd strongly urge you to speak in the interests of students and pass this resolution for a higher minimum wage and for sick pay. Uh, yeah, thank you for your time.
Thank you. Do we have any other public commenters that are here in person with us? Do we have any public comment? Go ahead.
Can I just start speaking whenever? Good evening, USAC council members. My name is Avery, and I work as a part of the Student Wellness Commission in the Office of General Representative 2. I also had the honor and privilege of working on this resolution that's being presented by the GR2 office. And I also just want to express my admiration for SLAP and the work that they do to advocate for student workers and make sure that they're getting livable wages and paid sick leave. It is outrageous that despite the UC president and chancellors getting almost $300,000 raises, with the UC president earning $1 million a year now, ASU workers are barely treated as part of this community. They have to work in horrible conditions, as you've heard from so many of our lovely SLAP members here today. They have had to earn horrible wages, and many of them probably work more than one job. Some may be disabled, some may have chronic illnesses, and they still have to go to work because that's the only way that they'll be able to afford tuition and other basic necessities. And so I just wanted to urge this council to vote yes on the resolution. This is a resolution that is incredibly important in preserving our community and showing the student workers that we care about them. And yeah, that's pretty much all I have to say. Vote yes. And please support Ask Me 3299 in their strike tomorrow.
Thank you. Do we have any other public commenters that are here in person with us? Go ahead.
Okay, hello. I'll be fast. My name is Ty. I'm also a member of SLAP. And yeah, I wanted to speak in favor of the resolution for a minimum wage and for sick pay at UCLA, and specifically talk about sick pay as well, because this is a demand that we actually that USAC also passed a resolution to have last year with in our other resolution that we passed with the Disability Students Union and Disabled Students Union and things to make sure that student workers are able to get sick pay, since that is not a thing that is guaranteed at the UC right now. Yeah, just really highlighting the huge contradictions between the UC not following California labor law or really any labor law in this country. Fast food workers in California are able to make $20 an hour, and then students who are performing a lot of really similar labor are not able to get that. The starting rates are around $16, $17, which is not livable at all in LA, let alone Westwood. So yeah, just highlighting how messed up that is. And the UC just raised tuition for students by 9.9% for out-of-state and international students, which is very, very messed up. And all of that money is just going to go line their pockets. And so I think there's, the things that we can do as a student body and as a student body government and things like that to ensure that our students and our student workers who keep this campus functioning are able to have their basic needs met. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any other public commenters that are here in person? Do we have any public commenters that are here online? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, I'm going to be closing public comment at 7:25 p.m. And we're going to be moving on to funding, starting with contingency. We have Bethany.
Hi, this week we had a total contingency programming request of $14,556.04, and we recommend an allocation of $6,073.33 for 5 USAC entities and 17 non-USAC entities. And I'm happy to answer any questions, and I'm just pulling it up right now and about to paste it into the chat.
Someone motion that, please. Happy.
I move to approve the recommendation of $6,073.33 for 5 USAC entities and 17 non-USAC entities.
Second.
Happy motions, Robbie seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With an 11 to 0 to 1 vote, that is approved. Now moving on to SFS, we have Carolyn.
This week, SFS allocated $1,453.99 to 3 non-USAC entities and 0 USAC entities.
Is there any opposition to that allocation? Next, we have Kiara with SWC programming.
For the SWC programming fund this week, we have four allocations totaling $1,340, 1 to a USAC entity and 3 non-USAC entities.
Is there any opposition to that allocation? Seeing none, we're going to move on to ARC with Alicia. Alicia, I'm unsure if you're talking, but we can't hear you. Do you maybe just want to paste it in the chat?
Were you able to hear me?
Now we can.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Oh, okay. This week we recommend a total allocation of 21,000 700.
Could you paste that in the chat, Alicia? We're having some difficulties hearing the numbers. Alicia, can you hear us? Okay, perfect. Is there any opposition to that allocation? Seeing none, we have TGIF with Alex, who I don't think is here. Does anyone happen to have the allocation from Alex? Huh? We have CS Transpo with Carradine.
This week, CS Transpo allocated $18,936 to 20 non-USAC entities and 1 USAC entity.
Is there any opposition to that? Seeing none, we are going to move on to special presentations, starting with a presentation from Chris Espino, North Westwood Neighborhood Council elections presentation.
Hello, Adam. Thank you so much. Good evening, everyone. I will not be giving the presentation today. I will be handing it over to a colleague, the Secretary of the North Westwood Neighborhood Council, Jacob and Andrew, or colleagues, I shall say. They're going to give a quick spiel or a pitch. So I hand it over to them.
Thank you, Chris.
They just probably need to be promoted.
Chris, is Andrew in the Zoom? I'm not seeing him in the attendees list.
That's fine. Then just promote Jacob Wasserman.
Hi, should I begin here?
Yeah, please do.
Hi. Oh, hi, thanks so much. My name is Jacob Wasserman. I am a research program manager at the Institute of Transportation Studies up at Luskin in my day job. But I'm here as the secretary of the Northwestwood Neighborhood Council. Now, for those of you who don't know, the Neighborhood Council is the most local level of government in the city of LA. There are 99 of them across the city, and they operate a little differently than most elections. You can vote and run for them if you're a resident, but also if you're a worker in a district, if you go to church in a district, if you're a student in a district, and you don't need to be a citizen. And you can actually vote if you're 16 and over. So it works kind of differently. There are people who vote in multiple neighborhood councils across the city if you have reason to in different parts of the city. And our district is Campus, the North Village, Westwood Village, and Pershing Square. And so we do all sorts of different things. We allocate about $30,000 of funding, $30,000 to $40,000 of funding, which I realize for you guys actually might not be that much, but to community groups. And we advise the city council on matters pertaining to our neighborhood. So we offer our opinions on developments in Westwood. We got a new bike lane built, for instance, and signage improved. All sorts of things from fixing potholes to advising the city on big policing ordinances and things like that. So we're here today just to talk about the election. There are 2-year terms, and it's an all vote by mail election. And right now, candidacy is open. So there are 2 seats reserved for undergrads, and there are other seats that undergrads can run for, including the at-large seats and the organizational seats, which just means you have to be involved in some sort of organization. And so I can put the link in the chat, or Chris can, but on our Instagram is the information on applying. It's really easy. I encourage you to run or to tell your friends to run. And we meet the first Wednesday of the month in Weyburn Terrace. So you can find all the website and all the information on our website, northwestwoodneighborhoodcouncil.org. You can go there, sign up for our email list, come to our monthly meeting the first Wednesday of the month. And I hope you'll run or consider it. And then we'll be back to talk about the election, which vote by mail applications are open, I think, from mid-January to early March. It's weird because of the fact that you can vote if you're not a citizen and if you're a worker. Because of that, it's not like other elections. You don't automatically get mailed a ballot, and the city does a very bad job of communicating that. So you need to request a ballot, and we hope to work with you to get the word out. We only had 100 voters last year, so we are hoping to, blow that number out of the water this year. But we will need your help. So happy to answer any questions. Glad to meet you at least virtually.
Thank you, Jacob. And I'll just briefly add on to that. Well, for starters, we pasted the link to our website on our chat. For those who have some interest, please review it. Tell other folks. On this council, there are 2 folks who serve on the Northwestwood Neighborhood Council, one of them being myself, and then Gen Rep 2, Tommy. And so please, this is a great opportunity for other folks just to get involved. If not directly involved, this is a great way for there to also be partnerships moving forward. Yeah, thank you so much, Jacob, for being here. And Jacob, if I'll also put Jacob's email in the chat, and you can feel free to email him or email the elections committee for the Northwestwood Neighborhood Council for more information regarding the elections.
Sounds good. Thank you so much for that. We are now going to move on to our second special presentation. We have Javi with the November Regents meeting recap.
Can we get the slides pulled up, please? Okay. Yay. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm gonna step to the side because I don't want to be facing the back of anyone. But yeah, welcome. Today's presentation is gonna be a recap of the recent November Regents meeting. Next slide. So just as a general overview, I'm going to be going through it day by day, but just as a note, not everything is going to be covered in this presentation because not everything is super relevant to us as students. Also, some of this stuff is just kind of boring. Like there's literally spent like an entire hour talking about the UC's impact on the wine industry, which I don't even know why we have an impact on the wine industry. But yeah, each section like sort of just shows the committees that met on their respective days for context. And next slide. You can access the full agenda through the hyperlink that I included. You all have access to this presentation. I'll also be publicizing this shortly after the USAC meeting for everyone's accessibility for those who are not on council. Next slide. And yeah, just going over the first day of Regents, Tuesday, November 12th. Some highlights. It was mainly just the meeting of the Health Services Committee and the Finance Committee. Some main things are just David Rubin, the UC External Vice President of UC Health Services, focuses in a letter on the quote unquote resilience of the medical centers, even with challenges in the labor supply, which is really, really funny to think about considering the fact that career workers are going on strike tomorrow because the UC cannot meet their fucking basic needs. Sorry for cursing. No, I'm not. And also the role of the UC as anchor institutions in their own communities. So how does each UC aim to address community investment and AIM efforts? AIM is like anchor institution like materials. So basically like their specific criteria for how they are serving their specific communities. So things like community investments, talent management, opportunities for small businesses to act as suppliers for UC medical centers, et cetera, et cetera. But normally the first day of the Regents meeting contains very low agenda items. Not much that's like even really that all too relevant to like students in general. Adam, I'm not sure if you were gonna comment.
I was.
Oh, do you want to comment?
Sorry? I lost track. What were you saying?
Like, or are you gonna comment or?
No.
Oh, okay, period. Next
I
day.
thought you were asking if I gave public comments.
Okay, day
Next
two,
class is about public
Wednesday.
comments.
Okay, public comment. Cool. Main focuses for students for this public comment was opposition to an increase in the non-resident supplemental tuition, NRST, which y'all may or may not have heard about this past week, as well as ethical investments in regards to Palestine, citing previous divestment campaigns from fossil fuels, South African apartheid, and more. Also basic needs funding and prioritizing food security efforts at campus resource centers. This was tackled by one of our student advocates to the Regents. Her name is Jeha. She is an amazing first year that is actually in my office and Tommy's office as well. Advocating for basic needs to be met at resource centers like the Blackburn Resource Center here on campus. Yeah, public comment. Sweet. Okay, so in terms of the tuition hike and everything, this past Thursday, the UC Board of Regents actually almost unanimously passed this proposal for a 9.9% hike in tuition for non-resident students for the next academic year. So in terms of who this affects, out-of-state students, international students, and non-AB 540 undocumented students are all affected by this tuition hike. And just for clarity and everything, for those of you who don't know what AB 540 is, that specific status allows for students to pay in-state costs of attendance for college instead of non-resident supplemental tuition, so they just have a more affordable college experience. And in terms of who voted, thank you, UCLA Divest, for being able to provide this very helpful graphic of who exactly voted. Click, please. One of the people who voted was actually our student regent, Josiah Bahari. Josiah Bahari is a PhD student or PhD candidate at UC Merced and our current student regent. He actually voted in favor of this tuition hike, which is very unprecedented because very few student regents have done that in the past. So that has put quite a target on his back in regards to like literally any student that's like underrepresented. Because why would you do that? Next slide, please. But just to put this into perspective, because a 9.9% tuition hike may seem a bit arbitrary for some folks, but some stats to make it more clear. In the fall 2024 admit cycle, 59.3% of first-year admits were considered non-residents. 24,000 were domestic and around 19,000 were international students. So this is around 43,000 students in this academic cycle alone that if they were given this tuition hike now, they would all be affected, and this is system-wide. In fall of 2023, for actual enrollment data, so people who actually accepted their offers to the UC, we had, can you click one more time? A total of almost 80,000 students from the non-resident status that would have been affected by this tuition hike. It doesn't make it any better because the UC Office of the President for the past few years has been pushing for increases in enrollment system-wide for the to increase numbers to help certain campuses achieve certain minority serving institution statuses like HSI, like how UCLA is trying to push for. Also, Asian American, Native Hawaiian, and Pacific Islander status at certain other campuses. I want to say it was Davis that achieved this recently. And the LA Times, helped to report on this expected 3,600 plus student increase for the next academic year, which means that, this number here might very well jump over like the 80,000 mark by the next time that we are able to sort of give a presentation about how many students are affected by this tuition hike. Next slide. And some more stats, aka stuff that's a little bit more relevant to the now. Approximately 10% of students at UC Irvine, which is 3,500 students almost, have not gotten access to their financial aid. Kind of crazy because it's November. We're on a quarter system. That is 2+ months of not having your financial aid that you need to pay your rent, to pay for your classes, to pay for your health insurance. Severe negative impact to undocumented students has also been largely cited. The Student Advocate Network for Undocumented Students, Sapphire at UCI, actually released a statement on this that I hyperlinked for folks who are interested in reading it. But lately, in my communication with like Irvine student government and everything, they are currently actively fighting their administration on this because they are simply refusing to take accountability, and like admin just straight up will not talk about it. The fact that they messed up on, not giving students their financial aid. And with the new FAFSA that came out just this past year, there was a glitch in the system that made it really hard for students to be able to submit their FAFSA on time or even at all. And this impacted about 18% of first-year admits in their ability to apply for financial aid. So when we're talking about tuition hikes and everything, this stuff also very much affects students. And so right now, the EPPs, my system-wide counterparts, are currently figuring out on how to get this issue of financial aid up to the Board of Regents and UC Office of the President in our meetings for the next quarter. We want to avoid UC Office of the President picking student representatives to present on these issue topics during Regents meetings, because more likely than not, they're going to pick students who will make the UC not look bad and not, acknowledge the fact that they are, again, screwing over students. So we are really just trying to like push for more like honest student voice, like on this board, on this stage of the system-wide level. Okay, that was a lot. However, if any of y'all are particularly interested in connecting on issues of financial aid, I mentioned the UC Irvine campuses, but I know other campuses are facing similar issues. UCLA students may be facing similar issues that I do not know about personally. But if you are interested, Kylie Jones, the external vice president for UC Irvine, I provided her contact information. She's very much open to meeting with us if we all are interested as a council, or maybe certain folks who have a bit more of a stake in this in general. If you guys are interested, please just contact me first, so I can sort of like get a sense of like how many people want to, so just so that we're not like flooding her email and like having a bunch of like repetitive meetings and everything. We could just have one big collective one. But yeah, that resource is there. Cool. Next slide. Oh, that is not the next slide. Thank you. Okay. All right. And the very last thing for the second day and everything, land acquisition, because the UC loves to take land. So in the Academic and Student Affairs Committee open session, the UC was discussing like basically acquiring their 42nd nature reserve in Santa Cruz. This one's called Stratton Ranch, and it's going to be added to the University of California's natural reserve system. Why does this matter? Next click. Okay, so UC President Drake asked that the regents approve this integration of over 2,400 acres of land to the UC NRS. This is to be operated by the UC Santa Cruz campus through a $4 to $7 million donor donation. This is meant to contribute to the UC's research and teaching development. And this, of course, matters because when the Board of Regents were asked that they intended to consult with the native tribes of the area in Santa Cruz, which are commonly known as the Amamutsun tribal band, the regents noted that they would not codify such a recommendation in their plan, basically taking away any accountability that they have to like consult with like any sort of indigenous tribe in their nature reserve, specifically this one of Stratton Ranch in Santa Cruz. Luckily, UC Davis EVP got Regent Josiah Bahari, our student regent, to commit to speaking with the rest of the board about the recommendation, but that's obviously no guarantee that this is going to be codified in the official plan, which just says a lot considering the fact that the UC really prides itself on research. The UC really prides itself on a diverse community of students, of faculty, of career workers and everything. But when it comes down to actually giving back to communities and making sure that community input is put into, for example, how native land is being, taken away and used by the university, they want nothing to do with it. They want to remove any and all accountability from themselves. And, really want to highlight that $4 to $7 million donor gift that's going to be used to maintain this nature reserve. Again, they can choose to raise our tuition, or I guess raise the tuition of the incoming class because it's not going to affect us, luckily, or however you want to look at it. They can do that, but they can do that because there is apparently no other way to avoid things like a state budget deficit, issues of funding and everything. But they can accept like millions upon millions of dollars of donor gifts to advance their research at the UC because the UC is at its core a research institution and a business. Next slide. Okay. Final stretch, day 3. Okay, the first big thing that they really talked about was COVID-19 and the UC's response to it. I linked the full report given by Dr. Carrie L. Byington from UC Opposite the President, but it focuses on the key lessons that the UC really learned from the early stages of the pandemic because we are still in the COVID pandemic. Talking about some benefits like rapid expansion to telehealth services and remote learning as a positive, which, great, love that. Also just recommendations like investing in tech, cross-system cooperation, research, again, very like numerical goals, very like financially savvy goals, nothing in regards to like actually investing in student communities that were negatively affected by the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic. Next slide. Yeah, students face things very differently, and we're still facing things very differently. These pictures are taken from the Disabled Student Union here at UCLA from their 2022 Strike for Their Lives, where they occupied Murphy Hall for 16 days, asking for many demands, but one of them, especially being a commitment to hybrid learning for all students because we're still in the midst of the COVID pandemic, and it did not make sense for the university to basically abolish all remote learning services when, the threat of being, permanently disabled by COVID-19 and other diseases that were like proliferating over the time were still very much like a real threat. And that's a win that the Disabled Student Union was able to get, thankfully. Next slide. We also see, the impact of, masking and stuff in regards to the encampment that happened this past spring. Since the abolishment of the encampment, next slide, please. UC Office of the President has taken it in their own hands to incorporate a zero tolerance policy for masking. And, even though we've all been in meetings with administrators like Administrative Vice Chancellor Michael Beck, about like what exactly like the masking restrictions like really mean and how they're like really only meant to deter people who are covering their identities and everything. The fact that there are no specific like there's no specific like language in their code to like really outline that and really just give like all the power to really just give all the power to, for example, campus security, other like law enforcement forces, student affairs staff, to basically go to people and be like, I don't know if you should really be wearing a mask in whatever setting. Because if they don't specify that, hey, this is only meant to be encountered during protests, then that gives free reign and that is terrifying, especially for disabled students like myself. So I took a couple quotes from the LA Times article first talking about this like zero tolerance ban that was passed in August or that was sent out by UC Opposite the President in August. Lots of quotes ranging from like how the UC was the birthplace of the free speech movement, how the university campuses have to maintain an environment where its work can be conducted without disruption. And where, the UC encampments were actually labeled as peaceful before they started attracting counter protesters, aka Zionists who are attacking students. I really want to focus on that second quote about campuses having to maintain an environment that is, like able for work to be conducted like appropriately and like without disturbing anyone. How is someone like me wearing a face mask in class like doing any harm to anyone? Which is why it's so damn concerning that the UC does not want to include in its like code and its recommendations that this is like for like that these mask bans are for a very specific purpose. I'm not advocating for it to be, like only limited to protest, because obviously I don't think mask bans should be in any place because that's idiotic. But I am saying that the fact that the UC does not want to follow through with these recommendations that community advocates, disabled people, people of color have been advocating for months since these recommendations have dropped is terrifying. Next slide, please. Okay. So this brings us to the very final topic that the Regents talked about during this Board of Regents meeting, and that was the two task force reports from UCLA. The first one being the task force on anti-Semitism and anti-Israeli bias. This is one of two task forces that was organized under now intern Chancellor Hunt, established in February of 2024. The report collected around like 430 respondents in the 8 months of their establishment, basically asking about like how the campus climate was for Jewish students here on campus. And the recommendations can be found further in the report. I included the dialogue across differences thing because they love that. I will not say what I want to say about that specific initiative because, yeah, I'll be nice. Next slide. And then the other task force was the task force on anti-Palestinian, anti-Muslim, anti-Arab racism and bias. This is the second task force that was formed and created under now intern Chancellor Hunt. Its report was divided into two parts. The first actions were actually taken on April 24th by the task force, where they basically cited in the 20-page report like that there were numerous threats to the lives of the task force members that led to them wanting to remain anonymous for the remainder of the reporting period. And there was also just incredible amounts of like intimidation against the Luskin Institute on Inequality and Democracy for the pro-Palestinian stances that they were taking. Notably on the fact that like they were trying to have like discussions and events with speakers to talk about things like structural racism, the impact that that has on Muslim students and everything. And they were receiving death threats that led to the cancellation of multiple events that the university never really took accountability for. And again, we're all part of the university here. We've received those emails from the university. Won't have any of them made any substantial like addressing to the uptick of like Islamophobia on our campuses. If y'all can find that, I'll give you a cookie. Chances are you're not going to get a cookie because this university does not want to hold itself accountable. Next slide. Okay, and this second report from the same task force was released in late June, and it centered more around the aftermath of the encampment, the UC's rapid militarization, and UCLA specifically being turned into a playground for pushing the aforementioned. I'm going to speak more to this on my officer report about my most recent meeting with Administrative Vice Chancellor of Campus Safety, Rick Brazil. But there are now more like third parties currently like doing like audits on campus offices to sort of like build up UCLA to be the model for the rest of the UC in regards to campus safety practices, which basically just means policing students. Next slide. And so what was the board consensus on this and everything? Because it wasn't really an action item that they were voting on. It was just more so, what do these reports say and everything? To put it very simply, yeah, to just put it very simply and everything, the Board of Regents very much sided more with the anti-Semitism, anti-Israeli bias report and everything. They were hiding behind the what they were calling like more legitimate like reporting of like racism on the campuses because that specific task force was able to report a lot more on like specific like survey data they were able to take. talking about just how bad anti-Semitism is on our campuses. And if you read through the report, it's about 90 pages, but you could skim through. There are multiple pictures of like actual cases of anti-Semitism happening, which is, me saying I am not trying to say that anti-Semitism is not a problem on our campuses. But the way that it was reported was very disingenuous. And if you look into the methodology, again, if you're a researcher, if you are in a STEM field of any sorts, you could look into the methodology and be like, it's kind of bad data collection in general. If you want to talk more about that, not online, please do, because I have so many thoughts on it. And then when it came to the anti-Palestinian task force, and the reports on that, they were just saying it's embarrassing how with two reports, they weren't able to provide substantial data, as if multiple months of public comment, student testimony, staff and faculty having to take like leave because of the fact that they were receiving active death threats to their lives for their pro-Palestinian, pro-Muslim stances and everything isn't enough to say, hey, there is a genuine issue of Islamophobia and anti-Arab racism at the UC. But apparently that doesn't matter because we can't be whittled down into a statistic for the UC. And that was something that was continued on in our discussions with the student regents afterwards, both Josiah Bahari and our designate Sonia Brooks. That was very unfortunate in terms of how it ended up going, but I am not going to be covering that in this specific presentation. Next slide. Okay, so what now? In terms of things, EVP was able to get our student regents, Josiah Bahari and Sonia Brooks, to commit to meetings, specifically meetings like around the month before each regents meeting that's going to be happening, because regents meetings are set 2 months apart. So the next one is not going to be until January. So in December, or like the weeks leading up to January Board of Regents meeting, which is going to take place in San Francisco again, we're going to be able to meet with Sonia Brooks and Josiah Bahari on a variety of student priorities, student issue topics, to make sure that when they're advocating for students in the room, that they're able to get, some of the more accurate information, on the ground information in terms of what students are experiencing at our campuses. Adam and I are also going to be having our meeting with Chancellor Hunt on Thursday. We're still, sort of figuring out like what our specific talking points are for the agenda based on some comments that he made during the Regents meeting. And in terms of the UC Students Association, we want folks to be on the lookout for a potential testimonial form for non-resident supplemental tuition and financial aid emergencies that are occurring at the UC. We're also going to be trying to do more of mobilizing to January Board of Regents, though I know that San Francisco is very inaccessible for students in Southern California. So we're really going to be pushing for there to be like a sort of hybrid programming here at UCLA, where folks can attend in a room on campus to be able to give public comment to the regents, to be able to engage with the agenda items that they're going to be talking about, because chances are the regents are going to want to pack that agenda for the new year. And also statewide lobby trainings at the campuses. The UCSA recently hired government relations pro staff that are finally well equipped to like go to their specific campuses and sort of talk about like what student power can look like in terms of organizing towards our government, towards the Board of Regents, towards UC Office of the President, and really just building on the very low power that we do have within this system to be able to enact change. So that's something that I really want to highlight and have y'all take a look at, just moving forward. But with that, I believe that's the end of it, unless I have more. I was wrong. Okay. And yeah, in terms of more action that we could take as students, Ask Me 3299 strike. Y'all have been hearing about this all week. Please participate. Do not cross the picket line. They're going to be striking this week due to a unilateral increase in healthcare costs for workers, with an average of about 10% across the board, withholding critical information for bargaining, which is illegal, and unprepared, and the UC coming unprepared and with no authority to bargain for better wages. To put things into perspective, ASME's contract with the UC has officially expired on October 31st. There's been quite a few weeks without them being able to get like good faith negotiations with the UC. And given the UC's track record, I don't know if y'all have been here for the past couple of bargaining sessions here at UCLA. They're not very good at negotiating. They see people outside and they get scared and they're like, no, we're not talking with you anymore. So that is to say, please join the picket lines this week. There's one tomorrow. There's one on Thursday. Share the anti-union activity documentation form with any workers that you may know that are participating, just for folks who may be discriminated against by their managers and for, participating in their right to strike. SB 3299 also put up a frequently asked questions about the strike. Also, how UC student workers can express solidarity with the labor union as well. That I want everyone to please look at if you haven't already. And then last but not least, this is sort of tangential to what I just talked about, but ASUCLA student workers in collaboration with the Student Labor Advocacy Project, SLAP, are going to be engaging in a mobilization effort to the ASUCLA Board of Directors to make public comment on Friday, December 6th. This is going to be happening in the Kirkhoff staterooms on the first floor, right across from the Transfer Center. We are going to be hearing a resolution on this today presented by our wonderful, wonderful General Representative too. But yes, I don't need to talk more about this because y'all are going to hear about it in the resolution and everything. But please vote yes on this. People deserve a living wage. People deserve access to sick pay. I have worked an ASUCLA job as a disabled person with like chronic pains and a chronic illness. It is not fun. And I reported on my experiences to ASUCLA before and everything, and they were just like, damn, but that's like kind of against policy. So like, I don't think it's real. And I'm like, I will jump you through this screen right now. Sorry for the recording and anyone who heard that. But yeah, that is basically it for this presentation and everything. Thank you for listening. If y'all have any questions, please do let me know.
Any questions for Javi?
Sweet.
Kiara?
Yes, please go.
Well, thank you for the presentation. I really enjoyed listening to everything, and I think we'll send you some follow-up questions later. Because you brought up interim Chancellor Hunt a few times in terms of the task forces and the different things that you mentioned. Was there any discussion about transitioning with the new chancellor coming in like next quarter and the next, just with the current topics at the meeting? Out of curiosity.
I wish. They have not been giving us any sort of transparency in regards to what the new chancellor is preparing for when he takes upon his term at the 1st of January. Adam, do you have anything?
I had my one-on-one with Chancellor Hunt yesterday, and future Chancellor Frank was there. I didn't get to talk to Chancellor Frank, but I talked to Chancellor Hunt about a couple of things, and we can talk about that later if you want.
I would love that. I'd be very curious. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's also something we might be trying to get more information out of when Adam and I have our joint meeting with him on Thursday. But we'll let you guys know on any updates on that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing and hearing none, I'm gonna go back to sitting down. Thank you.
Thank you, Javi. We're gonna move on to officer reports. Everything for me will be written, except my one piece of the week, which is I had my one-on-one with Chancellor Hunt yesterday. We talked about a bunch of stuff. It was Chancellor Hunt, Dr. Gorman, and Vice Chancellor Monroe, who were in on that meeting. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about TPM. We talked about the Olympics and having student-centered planning for the Olympics. We talked about the Regents meeting and a bunch of other stuff. It's not on my officer report yet, but it will be there soon. And we'll move on to Josh.
Sounds good. Just for me, just one quick thing. Just a reminder that the Congressional Advisory Board meeting is tomorrow. We're gonna have a ton of student organizations there, and there's also gonna be free food. If you didn't submit your information to our director so she can make your slide, please do that by tonight so we can incorporate you into our slideshow for the panel discussion. Also, shout out to the Congressional Advisory Board who's co-sponsoring its first resolution tonight.
Have you?
Cool. I will also try to keep mine short because my throat kind of hurts. In terms of major announcements and everything, the UC Students Association is still looking for nominations for the SEED Vice Chair role. Again, the Students Enacting Environmental Defense, or SEED campaign this year aims to really focus on advocacy for the expansion of student representation on each UC campus's Native American Advisory Council. If you're connected with the Indigenous student communities here at UCLA and you know anyone who might be interested in being nominated, please do let me know and I can pass that along. I'm trying to do searching right now. It is very, very difficult. It is week 8. Also, UCSA is also looking for applicants for the transfer appointed officer role. I know Mona has already reached out to me about this for a few applicants that she was able to find. But if you or anyone you know is interested in advocating for transfer students system-wide, supporting pro-transfer and education-based legislative efforts, also helping organize UCLA's delegation for Transfer Lobby Day in the spring, please let me know. Apps are due on Friday. The link is not there, unfortunately. I will add that right now. I'm so sorry. And then I think last thing, just quickly reporting on my meetings with Brazil, and everything. The main thing that we were able to get out of that meeting was a commitment from both Rick Brazil and the student affairs like vice chancellors, so Seppi and DeLuca, to commit to discussing ways on how to better equip students with resources and up-to-date information regarding campus policing, how to navigate incidents of discrimination and police misconduct, and more. This goal has been delayed since the beginning of the summer when we first started having these meetings because of all the waiting for the 21CP report recommendations and also stuff from UC Office of the President that have just made things very difficult. Other things I really want to highlight in that meeting was just the confirmation of, again, there is the continuation of work from two separate investigative firms that are aimed at reforming the Office of Campus Safety here at UCLA to prepare for a system-wide structure to apply to the rest of the UC. This is the Public Financial Management Firm and Julie Parker Communications. They're looking at how the office operates, and they're looking at other means of like emergency response, so also looking at how they respond to things like natural disasters. It's not just policing, just for transparency reasons. And they are going to be, sort of taking that to the rest of the UC once they are ready with those recommendations. Let's see, I believe that's it. Oh, for Orlando, I was able to talk to Sonia about this in SF and everything. We are gonna try picking another date for the student regent visit because the original date was during finals week, and we can guarantee they would not be getting anyone to meet with them then, unfortunately.
There we are. When did you speak with her?
This past week at the regents meeting.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then
yeah.
Thanks for letting me know. She hasn't reached out. I've been organizing the
Yeah,
12th, so
yeah.
I've even had the chancellor's and vice chancellor's office working on this. So I'll reach out to her to confirm this. So thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah. We're gonna try to push it to like early next quarter, which I think will honestly be a better time in terms of planning and everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Thanks.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks, Diego.
Hi, everyone. I'll keep it super short. The undocumented student resource fair was a success. About 100 student attendees, dozens of students tabling, and university staff and faculty present. And then just worked on the letter in support of Ask Me strike. That's it.
Tommy.
Majority I'll keep written. Our AFSME XGR2 Solidarity event is going on right now. So if you have anyone you want to text, it's virtual. So that's really easy to join. Also, GR2's Financial Literacy Night with a bunch of funding bodies will be hosted tomorrow in Royce 164 at 6 p.m. So if you know any students and clubs that are trying to get money, that would be a really good event to attend. So yeah, the rest is written. Thank you all.
Ramsey.
Everyone, so right now we're working on our Meal Access platform as well as some other platforms. With Meal Access specifically, I think some of you guys have gotten emails from our office. We're basically just kind of reach out to different offices, get you all just kind of sign on that letter, just basically show administration and UCLA Dining that all of USAC really does believe in supporting Swap Out Hunger program, as well as our other advocacy projects in that area. We will be meeting with them hopefully soon, and then we'll update you on how that goes and any other ways where we can collaborate. Everything else is written.
Espino.
Please refer to my written report. Thank you.
Robbie.
Hey, our basically unfiltered event last week was awesome. We had over 800 RSVPs, which is exciting. Shout out Jonathan. That contract was hell on earth. Gladiator 2 also slayed. We had over 700 RSVPs. And our Wicked screening is happening right now. We are in our Glicked era. And then we have a Noon Tunes on Thursday at noon in Kirchhoff Patio with a indie folk performance by Milo Gonzalez. So big things over here. Trying.
Sheridan.
I'll keep it short, but CSC is hosting a basic needs holiday drive starting Thursday of week 8. So this week until the end of week 10, we're going to have bins in SAC, BFIT, and Wooden, hopefully also in the Hill and University apartments. And we're accepting clean, lightly used clothing, socks, warm jackets that we will be donating. We'll also be doing a Venmo drive in partnership with all of our projects, and we'll be using those funds to buy hygiene and basic needs supplies as well. So stay tuned on our Instagram. Other than that, the rest of my report is written.
Alicia?
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so we have a diversity tour with the East African Student Association on Sunday, but RCP is full, unfortunately. So I'm sorry if you didn't sign up already. But I'm happy if you did. We don't have an art series event this week, but our Made with Love gallery is week 10. So we'll have the call to artists out soon, and then for Hip Hop Congress concerts and Jazz Reggae Fest, we have a house show on Thursday with some amazing performances by like artists like Coda God and Junie, and then some local, not local, UCLA artists like Jay Satin, another artist named Simone. So you can still sign up for that. And then yeah, we have Cumbia night next week. It's gonna be in Broome Plaza. There will be food. There will be salsa classes. Is a collaboration with ALC and some other LA based groups. And yeah, the rest of my updates are in my written report. So feel free to look at that if you'd like.
Nico?
Hi all. I'll just keep it written this week. Thank you.
Kara?
There it is. The majority of my officer report will be written. Just a few things I wanted to highlight. A few of our committees were at the Undocumented Student Health Fair, so just want to shout out Diego, his office for that event. That went really well. And then we're working, let's see. I met with Brew and Dine and Housing to discuss like reusable trays for their food recovery efforts and expansion on campus this week. And then Earth went to the November services meeting last week to discuss the removal of plastic bags and was able to talk with some of the representatives there from ASUCLA. And then the last thing I wanted to highlight is, so week 10 will be our town hall meeting. So the last meeting of each quarter for SWC is open to all students. So we have catering, that'll be free food. But yeah, so it's an open discussion. We talk about what, student well-being in general is like on campus, what is influencing that with just different questions and a lot of like kind of team organized activities, but also like just discussion of the services on campus. What are limitations to whether, it's financial or just other limitations regarding like health and other services on campus that we can then work on following in the remaining quarters. But yeah, it'll be great. Invite you all and of course your offices, and hope you guys attend. I'll bring more information next week.
Mona?
Sorry. They'll be written today for me. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to move on to admin reps, starting with Orlando.
Oh, Tamim came back. No way.
Hi, Tamim.
Hey, what's up?
Go ahead, Tamim. Sorry, I didn't know you're back.
No, it's all good. So I just want to keep it short, but we had the Bruins Around the World event today, and it was awesome. Thanks a lot, Mona and Chris, for showing up. I spoke at the event. It was a great event. We had people like the Nigerian Student Association, the East African Student Association, Melanin Melodies, the Chinese Music Ensemble, and Kyoto Taiko perform. We had the International Networking Event Night yesterday, and we had approximately 40 to 50 students show up. So that was a huge blast as well. We worked on the resolution opposing the UC Board of Regents tuition hikes for non-resident students, which will be presented today. Everything else will be written. Thank you.
Thank you. We are now going to move on to admin reports, starting with Orlando.
Okay, hello everyone. I just have one announcement. The Bruin Leaders Project has opened applications up. Why this is important for this area is because through the years, the majority of Bruin Leaders students have come from USAC staffs. So we've had a high amount. So please pass this along to your staffs. This is a great opportunity for them. So here's a quick blurb on it. The Bruin Leaders Project is a seminar-based leadership development program designed to provide effective leadership training with emphasis on personal growth and community involvement. Open to all UCLA students, BLP offers interactive seminars and activities focused on developing the qualities of being a successful leader and enacting positive social change. The vision for the Bruin Leaders Project is to envision a campus environment in which leadership is understood as a collaborative process based upon the valuing of differences. In addition, the Bruin Leaders Project envisions a seamless, cohesive framework within each campus-based leadership opportunity and organized and presented to students. The values, the Bruin Leaders Project seeks to realize its vision by honoring those leadership values set forth in a social change model of leadership development. What? A hands-on seminar-based leadership development program? Goal, make its participants better students, better leaders, and better citizens. How? Offer leadership seminars including public speaking and facilitation, conflict resolution, and diversity issues. In the past two BLP cohorts, years 22 and 23, there were BLP student interns who joined USAC committees, joined or started student organizations, and used their BLP experience to support their internship and graduate school interest. If you are interested, I will put an email, the BLP website, and their IG information in the chat. Thanks.
Thanks, Orlando. We are going to move on to Jessica.
So just a fun, exciting update this evening. So a lot of our team members went to ACUI this past week, which is the Association for College Unions International. So it's student unions all across the globe. And we had our Region 1 conference for the West Coast schools that participate, and we had some award recipients on our team. So shout out to Jonathan Wisner, who received the Deborah L. Hammond Outstanding New Professional Staff Award. Also, shout out to Emily Gomez, our student union admin. I'm sure many of you have gotten emails from her. She was the recipient of the Matt Cameron Outstanding Student Award. And then Mary Romo received the Region 1 Staff Driven Program of the Year Award for our Art in the Union program. So just wanted to highlight some of our award recipients on our team. Folks you all know and get to work with a lot, and really just appreciate you all and your partnership. That's it.
Thank you. We are going to move on. Lori is online, I believe. Lori, do you have any comments?
Yeah, originally I had no updates, but now I'm like, I have updates. Let's see, I'm going around the horn. Adam, I need to know what your setup is for December 6th, if you want to Slack me.
Sorry, could you repeat that?
Your setup for the Pavilion Club, if you can
Oh,
send me.
it got canceled.
Oh, it's canceled? Okay. Never mind. Alicia, I just saw an email come through from the fire marshal. I have to submit one more thing, and then I will have your capacity for jazz reggae. And then I'm working the football game on Saturday. So I think Orlando's working too. So if you're there, come say hi. I'll be at tunnel 12, I think. Anyway. And then I hope you enjoyed the snacks. That's it.
Peter, is Peter with us? Okay, then we have Jonathan.
Hey, hi, hello. Super quick from me today. Reminder for you all, but also an ask if you can remind your staff. If you all have custodial or maintenance requests for your office space or things outside your office space in the hallway, etc., the correct place to forward that to is to us, to the SGS email or to one of us directly, as opposed to like talk to us, ASUCLA, whatever. We'll get it done much quicker that way. And then my last update, I will be sending out the parking permit request allocation request form tomorrow morning. So please be on the lookout for that. If you are interested in purchasing a staff permit, it's first come, first serve, and it is only open to elected officers until the 26th. If there are more allocations available at that point, I'll let you know to share it with your staff. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you, Jonathan. We're now going to move on to new business. It's so weird. We don't have any appointments. We have Tamim, resolution opposing UC Board of Regents recommended tuition hike for non-resident students. Tamim, whether you want to read it in full or summarize it, up to you.
I think so. I'll just read it in full. I'll make it quick. So the resolution opposing UC Board of Regents tuition hikes for non-resident students. Whereas the University of California Board of Regents Finance and Capital Strategies Committee has voted to increase the tuition by $3,402 for non-resident students enrolling in the 2025-2026 academic year, bringing the total cost to $37,602. And whereas this proposed increase follows a previous tuition hike of $762 per year for non-resident students in 2019, and whereas the tuition increase make a college education less accessible, inhibiting diversity and hindering global perspective within the UC system. And whereas the proposed tuition hike contradicts the UC's stated values of diversity and inclusion, and whereas many students are already struggling with affording various basic needs due to the rising cost of living, and whereas the proposed tuition increase could strain existing financial aid resources, making it more difficult for non-resident students to receive adequate support, and whereas previous tuition hikes have led to increased student debt and financial insecurity amongst non-resident students, which could be exacerbated by the new increase, and whereas the increase could disproportionately affect students from lower income backgrounds and those from countries with weaker currencies, thereby reducing equity and fairness in access to education. And whereas this increase could also have a disproportionate impact on international students from the global south and non-8540 status students. And whereas non-resident students contribute economically to local communities through housing, dining, and other expenditures, and increased tuition may reduce their numbers and thus negatively impact local economies. And whereas higher tuition costs may deter potential non-resident students from applying to UC campuses, leading to a less diverse student body and potentially impacting the university's global reputation. And whereas other institutions, such as those within the California State University system, have implemented plans that prioritize equitable access and financial aid enhancements, setting a precedent for more balanced approaches. And whereas the UC has an endowment that stands at a total value of $29.5 billion as of June 30, 2024, and has grown 188% since 2014. And whereas in September 2024, the UC regions approved salary increases ranging from 8% to 29.3% for 6 level 1 members of the senior management group, also known as the SMG, at the Office of the President, on top of a general 4.2% increase for certain SMG members. And whereas the UC regions approved significant salary increases for all UC chancellors in September 2024, boosting their annual pay to between $750,000 and $1,189,260 through private funding sources that do not use state funding or tuition revenue. And whereas alternative funding strategies could be explored that do not rely on increasing tuition, such as seeking additional state support or optimizing operational efficiencies within the UC system. And therefore, let it be resolved that USAC strongly opposes the proposed tuition increase for non-resident students. Therefore, let it be further resolved that USAC calls upon the UC Board of Regents to reject this proposal and maintain current tuition levels for non-resident students. Therefore, let it be finally resolved that USAC urges the UC administration to explore alternative methods of addressing budget deficits that do not place additional financial burdens on students, and recommends prioritizing increasing accessibility and affordability for all students regardless of residency status.
Thank you, Tamim. I'm now going to open the floor up for questions or comments on the resolution. Anyone has any, please raise your hands now. Kiara.
Okay, I just wanted to say thank you to Tamim and show strong support for the resolution, echoing what so many, student workers were saying earlier during public comment. Financial burden, as so many have already said, should not be a limitation of your ability to be a student and, take care of yourself every day. It is despite, all the stressors that come with that. And so now with this heightened tuition increase for so many students, especially so many marginalized communities, this is very blatantly ignorant of so many basic needs and other costs that students are facing, especially with housing and just so many other costs that students must deal with every day, many supporting themselves. So anyway, I just wanted to show support for the resolution. Thank you, Tamim, for writing, and yeah, pretty much it.
Thank you, Kiara. Any other comments or questions? If none, can we please get a motion?
I move to approve the resolution opposing UC Board of Regents tuition hikes for non-resident students.
I second.
Alicia motions, Chris Ramsey seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13 to 0 vote, that resolution passes. We are now going to move on to our second resolution of the day. We have Diego with it's not a resolution, sorry, it's a sign-on letter. Letter in support of AFSCME 3299 strike.
Everyone, I hope that this time I've got it right, that we can use the temp. Okay, perfect. So yes, this is, as you all know, AFSCME is going on strike tomorrow to address the poor wages and the UC not meeting the demands of workers. As you can tell, student workers and students are wanting to build solidarity between these two groups, and this is just signing on to a letter of support by AFSCME 3299. It's addressed to the University of California President, Michael Drake, all of the UC regents, including the student regent, who unfortunately voted in favor of raising tuition for out-of-state students, UCLA administration, and interim chancellor Darnell Hunt, as well as AFSCME members. I can read just a little bit about it. I hope that I'm sorry if I didn't turn it in on time, but I think this was really urgent. I can just read a little bit about it. The University of California has been failing to negotiate in good faith with their career workers, the workers who keep this university running. AFSCME 3299 is a union that represents the frontline service and patient care workers who keep the UC running, such as food service workers, facility workers, medical workers, and more, and yet the UC refuses to properly compensate them. According to a recent report by the union, AFSCME members' real wages have declined by as much as 8% since 2017, with their base pay standing at only $19 an hour. At the same time, senior administrators have seen a 36% increase in real wages. Take UCLA's next chancellor, Julio Frank, for example. He has yet to begin his tenure, but he will receive a 39.9 raise over his predecessor for a salary of $978,904. The message could not be clearer. The UC would rather invest in bureaucratic elites than its workers and students. I can skip to the end. While the university continues to use its money to raise executive wages, purchase military-grade weapons, and fund security and law enforcement to surveil and repress students and workers, UC students and workers are facing poor working conditions, food and housing insecurity, and unaffordable healthcare. For example, AFSCME facilities workers face a hiring freeze that has caused understaffing and is contributing to increased levels of pain and workplace injuries. Student workers similarly face poor working conditions as many struggle with low wages, lack of sick pay, unsafe environments and conditions, and no tips. The university has also refused to meet demands that would help career workers, such as decreasing parking rates, making healthcare more affordable, and providing a $25,000 housing fund to workers. Simultaneously, all UCLA students are facing cuts to services, including no emergency housing, decreased hours to use meal swipes at Ackerman stores, and resources such as the recent notice of eviction of good clothes, good people. Therefore, the Undergraduate Student Association Council supports AFSCME's 3299's contract demands and pledges to stand in solidarity with AFSCME workers in their fight for a fair contract that meets the needs of workers on campus.
Thank you, Diego. Does anyone have any comments or questions about the letter? Avi?
If this letter does end up going through, where would we be posting it, or are we going to publicize it?
We should be sending it to the people that are listed at the top.
CC, yeah.
At the top of the letter, it has all the names.
No, yeah. But do we intend to actually publicize this on any sort of USAC channel?
We can do that, yeah. We can take this offline, but yeah, I'd be more than happy to publicize it on our social media or yeah.
Cool.
Can we get a motion? Tommy. Microphone.
Can you hear me? Oh, perfect. I motion to approve support of letter in support of AFSCME 3299 strike.
Second.
Tommy motions, happy seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 13-0 vote, the sign-on letter is approved. Yay. Last but not least, we have Resolution D, titled Resolution calling for a $20 minimum wage and paid sick leave for ASUCLA workers. We have Tommy. Whether you want to read it all or summarize it, that's up to you.
We'll do an abridged version. So basically, this resolution calls for decisive action to fight for fair wages, paid sick leave, and improved working conditions for ASUCLA workers, critical members of UCLA's campus community. It highlights the disproportionate financial challenges faced by student workers, including insufficient compensation, lack of paid sick leave, and unsafe working environments, which undermine their ability to balance their academic, professional, and personal responsibilities. The resolution calls for the following key actions: advocating for a living wage, specifically raising the minimum wage for all ASUCLA workers to at least $20 per hour to align with the cost of living in Los Angeles. 2, implementing paid sick leave, ensuring compliance with California's labor laws by providing paid sick leave, safeguarding workers' health without financial penalty. 3, raising awareness, launching a comprehensive awareness campaign to educate the UCLA community on the economic realities of ASUCLA workers and mobilizing support for change through social media, flyers, and events. 4, community engagement, conduct surveys and collect petition signatures to understand workers' challenges and demonstrate widespread support for equitable labor policies. 5, advancing dialogue and advocacy, engage directly with ASUCLA leadership, UCLA administration, and labor organizations to advocate for these reforms and foster accountability. And finally, 6, empowering workers through education, host workshops and seminars in partnership with labor scholars and unions to ensure workers and students are informed of their rights and legal protections. This resolution reaffirms USAC's commitment to justice and equity, recognizing that the well-being of ASUCLA workers directly impacts the vibrancy and success of UCLA. It inspires solidarity and demands swift action to create a campus where all workers are valued, supported, and empowered to thrive. So I urge you all to vote yes.
Thank you, Tommy. Does anyone have any questions or comments about the resolution? Kiara?
There it is. Thank you, Tommy. For show great support for the resolution. I guess my question is, since there was a resolution passed similar to this last year, what, I guess, next steps would there be, I don't know, in terms of whether it's like certain entities working with to push this forward this year? I guess I'm not too sure, I guess, what went on last year, but yeah, I guess just from your work so far and your understanding, like what next steps would there be to make sure that, I don't know, anything that was not done last year we can push forward this year, any support we can provide from our end?
So this resolution is kind of a more extensive version of the last, has more action items, which I just laid out. So I believe, like, specifically trying to organize more students themselves through the means by which I just explained, and kind of gain the attention of those in power, while also USAC and other students in leadership positions making a kind of direct effort to form meetings with those who currently control the wage and do our part to hopefully achieve $20 minimum wage and a paid sick leave, because that is what is right.
For sure. Thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Thanks.
Any other comments or questions? If none, can we please get a motion? Carol.
I need to stop turning this off. I motion to approve the resolution calling for a $20 minimum wage and paid sick leave for ASUCLA workers.
I second.
Kiara motions, Chris Espino seconds. All in favor, please raise your hands now. Please lower your hands. All against, please raise your hands. And all abstaining, please raise your hands. With a 12-0 vote, that resolution passes. With that being said, I adjourn this meeting.